Good morning. Good morning. Oh, the music's just started. Good morning. Turn that down a smidge. There we are. How are we doing this fine morning? I don't know about you, but it's windy here. Very windy. In fact, the hat is on like this because the wind blew it that way. That's not true, but you get the idea. Yeah, it is blowing an absolute hoolie out there. Jim Turner has just arrived. Good morning, Jim. Ken Hatcher is here as well. Okay, so Ken Hatcher is, I thought I was having a bad morning, but he's had a worse one. Bad morning, he's just been hit by diesel shed container door in the wind. Important thing, Ken, is, are you okay? Are you injured? Do you need assistance? Please let us know. Mick is here as well. Good morning, Mick. Dan Cullen is here as well. Dan Cullen with the weather report saying, good morning, everyone. It's blowing a gale up here. I'm not sure where Dan is at the moment, but it's blowing a gale pretty much everywhere, I think. But yeah, very, very blowy out there. Before we get into the show, and I do have another packed show for you today, much to my surprise, I thought we'd have run out of content by this time of year, but we've still got plenty to get through. I just want to touch very quickly on the subject of fake news. And I'm not talking about the Donald Trump style of fake news where I don't agree with that, therefore it's not true. I'm not talking about that. Ken Hatcher, just an update. I'm okay, just saw cut arm for Christmas. Let's hope it's not your drinking arm, Ken. That's all I can say. Or your turkey carving arm, possibly. So yes, fake news. You've heard me rail in the past. I'm going to turn the music off. That seems inappropriate for what we're doing at the moment. Yes, you've heard me rail in the past against industry awards that are awarded to basically advertisers. So if you spend enough money on advertising, you'll be considered for an award. Well, you're familiar with that. As I say, I've railed against that before. There's an extension to that. And it is, you pay a magazine to write nice things about you, either in the form of a sponsored article or in the form of you run our article and we'll produce an advert for you. And that's bad enough. You know, editorial should stand on its own 2 feet. If it's a good enough article to be featured, it shouldn't have to be backed by cash. But then the one that gets me, which I've seen a lot recently, is companies, or more specifically, PR companies, boasting about all the coverage that they've got for their client, when we all know full well they paid for it. Who do they think they're kidding? Just ridiculous. It is the right arm. Oh, Ken. I mean, I've got to be honest. Just on the subject of wind-related injuries, my wife had one a couple of weeks ago, and hers was the other way around in some ways. She was actually getting out the car, and the wind caught the car. You remember we had that really high wind a couple of weeks back? The wind caught the door and wrenched it out of her hand and hurt her finger. No major injury. She could still do the ironing, which was the important thing. But, yeah, be careful out there, people. It's not just being hit by falling trees and sideswiped by curtain-sided lorries. It is dangerous out there, so please look after yourself. Yes, without further ado, should I roll the intro? I think I probably should. I'm going to post the question of the day and get this show on the road starting now. It is Wednesday, the 18th of December. Almost the year is over. I'm just going to say a very quick good morning to Gary Muirhead. He says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, all you filthy animals. He's clearly watched Home Alone or is about to. Good morning to you, Gary. Good of you to join us. Thank you very much indeed for being here. As I was saying, it is Wednesday, the 18th of December. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the good King Wenceslas of Demolition. Or something. In today's show, Shantui lifts the lid on its new battery electric dozer, and we've got a sneak peek for you. We're taking a closer look at 2 of the latest Kobelco excavators, lifting made easy with Magni, and we're taking another trip down memory lane with a vintage Komatsu dozer in action. Plus, in my morning monologue today, why 2025 should be the year of unity across the demolition and construction industry. I realise I'm asking the impossible, but that will be the subject matter for my morning monologue today. But before we get to all of that, I do need to share with you the mystery machine for the day, which looks, well, I'll show you in a second. Right, now, I'm just going to have a very, very quick recap to make sure I've got my facts straight. Yes, Chris Ford won yesterday. Can he do the same again today? Have I actually seen Chris in the chat? I don't think I have. He may pop along just to snatch victory. But here is the mystery machine. That's what you've got to identify. I'll tell you now, it's not some scaffolding. It is actually, there is a machine in there. I'd like your guesses on what that might be. Going back to the question of the day, which I'll come back to that in just a moment. But Gary took my saying, "You filthy animals." I think that whoever wrote the script for Home Alone would probably claim that it was their expression, but fair play. Gary Muirhead says, "Good morning, Mrs. Anthony. I hope you're feeling a bit better now." She is a bit better, but she's still not fully recovered. Still coughing like a good one. Yes. Mark Whiting is here. Good morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. As I say, the show can start as soon as Mark arrives. If ever he doesn't pitch up, I shall just go home. Metaphorically, I'm already home, but you know what I mean. So guesses on the mystery machine. We've got Ken Hatcher go for the Hitachi EX120. No. Dan Cullen going for the Komatsu PC360. No. And our friend Mick has just said, what has he said? The Hound just went into Jack Nicholson mood, tried to pull Postman through the letterbox, and let us now a pile of bits and pieces. Well, with any luck, it was only bills. And we all know the way it works. If you don't receive the bill, if it's destroyed in transit, well, there you are. And I've just been warned, apparently my other half can't watch this show on Facebook on Diggers and Dozers. I don't know why that is, but it'd go over to Demolition News or go to YouTube or go to Twitter or go to Instagram or go to LinkedIn and you'll be able to see it there. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Jim Turner is going for the Zaxxis 130 on our mystery machine. It is not. Let me show you a smidge more, and let me take Jim out of the way so you can see what it is. There are some tracks there. So everybody's on roughly the right track, if you see what I mean, but nobody's got the right make or model as yet. Ken Hatcher says he's on Facebook. There you are. I don't know what my other half is playing at. So yes, I'm going to quickly take that away. I'm going to remind you of the question of the day, and then we'll get cracking. So question of the day looks like this. Yeah, we've already done favourite Christmas song, favourite Christmas movie, and we're now doing your favourite Christmas tipple. Yes. What is your favourite Christmas tipple? I am no longer a drinker, so I don't actually have a dog in this fight at all. I'll be drinking tea and Diet Coke for most of the festive break. But what about you? We have had a couple of answers on that. Where are we? Gary Muirhead says, Bucks Fizz. Can he beat a wee glass of champagne? I can't do the accent. A wee glass of champagne and orange juice on Christmas morning. Yeah, that used to be a thing here. But not any longer. And I think we had a one there. Dan Cullen's going for Irish coffee. Yeah, you're basically listing things that my wife likes at the moment. Okada Europe have just joined us, purveyors of some damn fine attachments. Good morning to Okada Europe. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Back to the mystery machine. What have we got? Let me take... Well, no, I'll show you that. Gary Muirhead is going for the Zoom Lion ZE225GN. It is not, but you're not far off. Dan Cullen is going for the Zoom Line 500. It is not, but you too are not far off. Jim Turner reckons it could be a Hydromech. It is not. Mick says, question of the day, few pints of the black stuff down the pub as I don't keep any drink in the house. We do. Oh boy, do we. Absolute closet full of the stuff, which is, I don't even find it tempting these days, but Yeah. So let me show you a bit more Mystery Machine before we crack on. There you are. That's the machine I'd like you to identify, make and model, if you would be so kind. Back to that in just a moment. But first, this. Yeah, those fine folks at Shantui. You know, they've got a brand spanking new battery-powered dozer. It looks awesome. You can quibble all you like about battery electric, and you're right to do so. However, it does look a stonking piece of kit. It's only a quick video, this, but does look the part. Looks the part, doesn't it? Slightly concerned about all of it being the same colour. Do you remember as a kid you get bored colouring in? And you'd stay in the lines, and you go, oh, bollocks, make it all blue. Yes, it kind of looks like they've done that with the tracks there. What do we got? Various other guesses on our Mystery Machine. We've got Dan Cullen going for the Zoomline ZE360. It is not. Gary Muirhead going for the ZE750 GK. It is not one of those either. There's a bit more for you. I think you've both gone a little bit too big. You're in the right area, but you've gone a little bit too big. So keep those guesses coming if you would be so kind. What do we got next? Oh, yeah, we've got a pair of brand spanking new Kobelco excavators next. I think this is from Australia. So we'll be back in just a moment with that.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, I don't do Maltese, so I kind of, you've got me you've got me at a disadvantage here, Mick. He says, seeing as I'll be in Malta for Christmas with the hound, I'll be on the Sisk. Is that Sisk? I don't know what Sisk is, and he will be in the pool. What is Sisk? Don't know. Ken Hatter is also joining the Zoomline chat with that. He says the Zoomline 85. It is not. Gary Muirhead is going for the ZE335G Ace. It is not one of those either, but you're all getting remarkably close. Yes, while you're all messing about with that, I'm going to show you some new Kobelcos that look like this.
Short radius machines are ideal for operators working on urban and residential job sites and are increasingly popular in Australia due to the requirements for roadworks and utility maintenance. That's why at Kobelco, we're excited to announce the introduction of 2 new Tier 3 models to our extensive short radius range. The SK225SR and SK235SR-7. The new SK225SR and SK235SR-7 excavators offer powerful performance and productivity, precise controllability with excellent stability and lifting, all with the benefits of a Tier 3 engine, removing the requirements for a DPF or AdBlue, resulting in lower owning and operating costs and less downtime for maintenance. As part of Kobelco's Performance X design concept, these new models benefit from the popular 7 Series cab design, ergonomics and safety features. Today we're going to take a closer look at the features on the new SK235SR-7. The SK225SR and SK235SR-7 in Tier 3 are available at your local Kobelco dealership across Australia and New Zealand. To learn more about these new models, visit our websites at kobelco.com.au or kobelco.co.nz, or by contacting your local Kobelco dealership.
We do have a winner on our mystery machine, but before we get to that, we're going to do a couple of bits on the Kobelco. Ken Hatcher says, Tier 3, that's out of date. Out of date here, quite possibly not out of date in Australia. Don't know what the regulations are there, but yeah, smart-looking machines, as Mick says. That machine is cleaner than the hound's nuts are after his bath. Is that actually a measure of cleanliness? Apparently it is. Gary Muirhead says, I remember Kobelco used to joint venture or joint manufacture the likes of Fiat and New Holland before going standalone. Best day's work they ever did, I would have thought, going standalone. Going back to Mick as well. Interesting that it's still Tier 3 over there. Yeah, well, you know, it rather depends. I mean, the very fact that we've got Stage 5 and Tier 1, 2, and 3 and so on, yeah, it's all got a little bit confusing. I'm not entirely sure how the manufacturers keep up with it, to be perfectly honest. Dan Cullen says, nice, love Kobelco. Well, as I say, we do have a winner on the Mystery Machine, which I will review in just a moment. But going back to Sisk with our friend Mick over in Malta, apparently it's a local beer. As for the letters that the dog destroyed, 2 dear sirs or unless, and a Christmas card from the local council. I think you can probably manage without all of those. Now, as I said, we've had a correct answer on our mystery machine, which looks like this. In fact, we had it twice, but the person who got it first was Dan Cullen. Let me just make sure I've got the right one. Yes, at 10:16, he said it was a ZE215G Pro from Zoomline. He was right. And then at 10:17, we had exactly the same answer from Gary Muirhead. So Dan Cullen gets the points. It's all academic because I won this month, but just to prove it, there you are. I couldn't have shown you the Dipper because, frankly, it would have been a dead giveaway. That is a very distinctive colour. Very nice colour as well. Dan Cullen says, all this stage tier stuff, load of bollocks. Kind of agree. Ken Hatch says, thought we were at tier 6 now. Could well be. To be honest, kind of lost the will to live with it. I'm just looking for the reset when everyone goes electric and we just go back to it's electric, therefore it's clean. Sorry, Gary, says Dan. I'm sure the apology is accepted. Yeah, what have we got next? What have we got next? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, we've got some a bit of lifting with the fine folks at Magni. Back after this. Yeah, Gary Muirhead says, well done, Dan. I think we must have gone through the whole range. I think you must have done. Dan also says, Zoomline looks tidy kit. I've got to be honest. I've not had a chance to take a Zoomline machine for a spin, but when you get to see them, I saw them last at Intermat, and they really do look the part. I don't think there's a lot wrong with the Sani, the Sunward, certainly the Lugong and the XCMG, but the Zoomline does look a proper job. Wonder why they're not here in the UK. Well, given all that's going on at the moment with tariffs and what have you, the anti-Chinese sentiment, I'm not entirely sure now would be the good time to do it. But hey, they've made it all the way to France at Intermat, so we may yet see them. Who knows? Yes, Magni, Italian telescopic handlers making lifting easy, like this. some interesting news coming out in the audience here. So first of all, Mick says, read that in the land down under, they can't find a complete or proper reading for the whole country regarding air quality due to the sheer size of the place. Wonder if that has anything to do with their tier system. I wonder indeed. And Dan Cullen says, I see Tom Hardy is paying the entire wages of a construction firm who went bust building a set for a movie of Guy Ritchie's. Is that right? Listen, I don't know Tom Hardy from, I could pick him out of a lineup. But my son Fred bumped into him in Richmond some years ago. Said he was absolute gent. He was walking his dog. Fred asked him for a photograph, which he was more than happy to do. Fair play to him. 50 builders were affected, so fair play to Tom Hardy. Keep up the good work, sir. And stop doing Venom movies. Go back to doing good stuff like The Revenant and stuff. We've got one more film to come, which I need to dredge off my hard drive. So let me play this and I'll go do that now.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yes, dredging it off my hard drive. Yesterday we had an old John Deere dozer in action. Well, we've got an equally old Komatsu dozer for you this time. Let me just find it on the hard drive. It is... should be very close by. It is like this. Nice bit of old school Komatsu. Mick says, bit saggy in the tracks. Bit like me. I know the feeling, mate. I do know the feeling. He also says, like it, my type of machine, not a lot of buttons to press. That came all the way from Cambodia, that machine. Going back to Dan Cullen's story about Tom Hardy paying for the builders that are building a set for Guy Ritchie. Apparently 50 builders involved, and it's saying in excess of 250 grand. I have a question. If the set is for a Guy Ritchie movie, why isn't Guy Ritchie paying it? He's not short of a few quid. He was married to Madonna, for crying out loud. He must have money to burn. Dan Cullen reckons that's a nice old girl. I totally agree. Right, that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. That's about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I will see you again in a different hat in just a moment. Excuse me, I just need to press a button, switch hats, and I'll be back. Seamless transition. Or not. Right, let's clear the throat and get ready for the morning monologue. If I were a conspiracy theorist, I mean, I'm not, but if I were, I would argue that the current state of the UK demolition and construction industry is no accident. Instead, it feels like part of a deliberate plan to divide and conquer. The working men and women who once had the security of direct employment have been pushed into self-employment or agency work. Sure, that allows employers to flex their workforce up or down depending on demand, but it also silences the collective voice of those workers. When everyone is an individual, who's left to stand together? The industry itself is fractured into countless specialist trades, each with its own trade body. On the surface, that brings a welcome degree of expertise and specialisation, but it also ensures that no single group of subcontractors has the size or strength to challenge the status quo. No one trade body has the power to rock the boat, and so the boat sails on, piloted, of course, by those in power and authority. As I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Even so, doesn't it seem peculiar that the more fragmented the industry becomes, the more those at the top seem to benefit? Take the government's decision to abolish red diesel. The industry so splintered and siloed could muster no meaningful resistance. Instead of presenting a united front, it became a cacophony of isolated voices shouting into the void. Now compare that to the farming sector, which has managed to rally with remarkable unity. When faced with the inheritance tax raids, the construction and demolition sectors have once again shown their divisions. Meanwhile, the farming industry has stood firm. Farmers operating arable, livestock, organic, intensive or mixed farms, all standing together. And then there are the endless rules and impositions handed down by Tier 1 contractors. You must carry this particular competence card. You must wait 90 days to get paid. You must allow us to sit on thousands of pounds of your money in retentions, even as we distribute bonuses to our CEOs and board members. So, against this backdrop, I propose a different approach. I propose a phalanx. For those unfamiliar with military history or that haven't seen the movie 300, a phalanx is an ancient formation where soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping, spears extended to fend off the enemy. It created a nearly impenetrable wall of defence and relied on teamwork, discipline, and unity to succeed. Now, I'm not suggesting that workers arm themselves with spears, but make no mistake, the industry's common enemies are long overdue a good fending off. Standing alone, individual contractors, whether they be in demolition, ground workers, electricians, landscapers, they're easy targets. They can be picked off one by government policies, Tier 1 contractors, and clients. But standing together as part of an industry-wide phalanx, they would form an unbreachable defence, a single unified voice that could speak louder than the fragmented whispers of a dozen trade bodies. Together, they could challenge unfair practices and demand a fairer deal. The year 2024 was tough, and all signs indicate that 2025 will be no better. The industry has a choice. It can stick to its usual tactics of every man for himself, undercutting competitors on price and stabbing one another in the back. I've lived through enough recessions to know that this Let me do that a bit again. I've lived through enough recessions to know that this approach never ends well. Alternatively, we could try something new. We could unite against a common foe, gathering our scattered forces into a single, powerful voice for change. If demolition and construction are to keep the wheels of the economy turning during tough times, isn't it only right that those doing the work have a say in how it's done? If specialist contractors are to shoulder the hardest graft, isn't it time they had a hand in shaping how they were rewarded? The government's actions and inactions have left many in the industry feeling angry and frustrated. The endless hoops and obstacles imposed by those at the top, whether they be bureaucrats or Tier 1 contractors, make it tempting to throw in the towel. But it doesn't have to be this way. Now, innovation is a buzzword in the industry, often used to describe new equipment, robots, or AI-driven machinery. But what could be more innovative than creating a unified industry that is fair and equitable for all? An industry where workers and subcontractors, rather than competing for scraps, stand together as a united front. And unity isn't just about survival, it's about progress. A united industry could demand changes that benefit everyone. It could push for quicker payment terms, ensuring that subcontractors aren't left waiting months for their hard-earned money. It could challenge the retention system that allows Tier 1 contractors to hold funds that rightly belong to those who did the work. It could demand competence requirements be standardised and fair, rather than used as barriers to entry that disproportionately burden smaller players. And a phalanx doesn't mean uniformity. It doesn't mean erasing the individuality of trades and the expertise of specialists. It means aligning interests to protect the whole. Just as in the ancient formation, each soldier's shield protected not just themselves, but the person next to them. In this way, the industry's many trades could stand together, protecting one another while advancing a shared cause. The year ahead will unquestionably test the industry's resolve. So will it continue to operate as a collection of silos, each shouting into the void? Or will it come together, shoulder to shoulder, as a phalanx that is stronger and more resilient than the sum of its parts? And you know that saying, united we stand, divided we fall? Yeah, there's a truth in that. There you are. A phalanx is what I'm saying to you. What do we got? Dan Cullen says Mace Construction is to close their logistics arm. Yeah, I heard that. Jim Turner, a late arrival, say in answer to the question of the day, he's saying about the question of the day, which is, what is your preferred Christmas tipple? He's going for Iron Brew, Baileys, and Guinness, same as the rest of the year. And Mick says, not in one glass, Jim. I hope. No, I hope not as well. There are too many in the industry who are only interested in their own pockets. The problem with that is this every man for himself thing. Trying to throw each other under the bus, stabbing each other in the back. Do you not think, we could... I think we've already accepted that the likes of the NFDC, the CPA, CEA, Federation of Master Builders, all of these Build UK, all of these organisations do not have the ear of government. They say they do, but they do not. Would it not be sensible for them all to unite under one, maybe not even permanently, but to have a framework in place where something like the removal of the red diesel subsidy comes along, or this inheritance tax thing that the farmers are so up in arms about, for them to say, okay, we've got the framework, we'll get together all of the industry, the whole lot, regardless of what discipline you are within demolition and construction, and we will present a united front. Instead of these little whispers, demolition's not very happy about that. Oh, ground workers aren't very happy about that. Oh, farmers aren't very happy about that. But to actually stand up and create a united front. I said it yesterday, which is kind of what triggered this piece in the first place. If, let's take the NFDC as an example. If Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves or one of the Labour government pass down a rule or a regulation or some piece of legislation today that would negatively impact the demolition industry, the National Federation of Demolition Contractors could muster about 130 signatures on a piece of paper. You'd get more signatures if you just went down your local high street and randomly asked people to sign a piece of paper. Nobody in government is taking note of 130 people. They're just not bothered, not interested. And I would say exactly the same about Build UK. Build UK, the NFTC constantly pleading with them to insist upon NFTC membership when they appoint demolition contractors. Why the hell should they? Why would they? They want the best deal possible because that's the way the real world works. But if there was a rule passed down, and red diesel would be one, potentially inheritance tax could be another, where rather than going and knocking on the door of number 10 Downing Street with a piece of paper with 130 signatures, you arrived en masse, 2.5 million people, and said, you lot in there, as Harry Enfield used to say, no, I appreciate you running the country, but we're not having it. Sort it out. But we don't. We don't. And the bizarre thing about this is, I said the same thing about Brexit. Regardless of your standpoint on Brexit, and I realise it's a pretty divisive subject. We have tried hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of being in conflict with our European neighbours. We fought wars with the Spanish, we fought wars with the French, we've obviously fought wars with the Germans, and so on down the line. And where did that get us? Is that really the way forward? Whereas if we could accept the fact that the Spanish do Spanish things and the French do French things and the Germans do German things and the Brits do British things, and we could all just get along, Brexit would, we would, in an ideal world, we would have a lasting peace. We wouldn't be constantly fighting with each other. And I would say exactly the same in this. If the piling contractors are doing one thing and demolition contractors are doing another and the landscapers are doing another and the electricians and the HVAC people are doing, they're all going off in their different directions. If somebody could just say, lads, come here, because they would do it with a Cockney accent, come here and we'll all sit around a table, we'll agree exactly what we're going to do. And imagine the force of that. If the government, let's take the government as an example, they hand down some sort of regulation that is going to impact everybody in construction. And as a unified voice, 2.5 million people, we just went, no thanks. Go away and rethink it. And if you don't, we stop. Why not? Shaquille Malik has just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning, Shaquille. Good of you to join us. Mick says, undercutting is still rife. Firms will not employ workers, and even worse now with national insurance contributions. A union is one thing to stay away from. If the demo companies got together, there may be a chance, but we all know that won't happen. I'd love to see it, but not in my lifetime. Well, what's left of it? Yeah. See, the problem, and let's pick it up. I mean, Mick and I both come at this from a demolition angle. The problem you've got with demolition and in general and the NFTC in particular, there's about 550 odd demolition contractors in the UK. Now, even that is not a major talking point. That's not enough to make the industry or the government take notice. But 130 odd members within the NFTC is just not big enough. It's not vocal enough. It's not powerful enough. It doesn't have the heft or anything. It kind of needs others. Is that Micah Flemons? Micah Flemons says, good morning from YouTube. And going back to Shaquille Malik, good evening here in Pakistan. Good evening to Pakistan. I wish I could say it in Pakistani, but I can't. So good evening in Pakistan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And Micah Flemons, whereabouts in the world are you? There's no clue there whatsoever, but good morning to you. Or good evening, depending where you're watching from. As I say, we've tried, as I was saying about Brexit, we've tried operating in our own little silos of the French and the Germans and the Spanish and the Smiths and the English, and doesn't work. I realised I realised that the EU was fundamentally flawed, and I realised it had its major issues and so on down the line, but surely trying to solve the nation or the continent's issues as one rather than going off in different directions is better. And I would say exactly the same about demolition and construction. We've and I wonder, I don't even know how I would go about tracing this, but I wonder how much of this division has been the choice of those that have been divided, or how much not getting into conspiracy theories, but how much of that was kind of forced upon us, and I appreciate that all of these little skill sets, demolition, landscaping, HVAC, or whatever it might be. I realise they all have their specialities, and I realise they all have their little trade bodies. And I think when they talk amongst themselves, obviously demolition has a language of its own. Electricians have a language of their own. Scaffold is exactly the same thing. And I realise that absolutely works. But all the time that division is allowed to continue, we will have our fate dictated by those at the very top of the tree. And I said it at the top of the morning monologue. Nowhere is that more evident, I don't think, than in actual direct employment of people. You go back 10, 20, 30 years, all of the major construction companies, all of the major demolition companies all had, rafts of men, mainly men, standing by. They were on the payroll, and they'd come and go, and they do their thing. And yes, I realise redundancy is unpleasant. I realise fluctuations in workload and demand and the economy. I realise that's going to impact, and I realise it's harder to get rid of somebody if they're on the payroll. I take all of that on board. But having pushed them out into self-employment or agency work, again, not a conspiracy, but they have weakened the workforce. There is no way. I'll use the same example again. If a major contractor, or Build UK, for example, decided tomorrow that everybody needs to throw away all of their competence cards because they've decided to create a new one in their own image, it's going to cost everyone £2,000 to get one, and they will not be allowed on any construction project in the UK unless they have one. What you going to do? What are individual operators and operatives going to do about that? If you are part of a 2.5 million strong phalanx, you could go back to Build UK and say, up your pipe, pal. If you are an individual worker working through an agency, you've just basically got to scratch around and find 2,000 quid to go and get your card, haven't you? And as I say, I don't know whether that's a situation we have allowed to happen, or whether it was forced upon us while we weren't really paying attention. But either way, it has weakened the argument and weakened the resolve of the working man and woman. Mick says, if I remember rightly, the NFDC was set up to represent the demolition industry, not as a whole, i.e. the blokes on the ground, but demo firms. Looking back over the years, I can't think of one thing they've done for the workers except to bring in a card system that is geared to boost their own coffers. I don't often speak in their defence, and I'm struggling to come up with much. But obviously, the NFDC gave rise to the National Demolition Training Group. It has latterly become a cash cow that basically props up the NFDC. I take that on board. It does also promote its own card scheme, which obviously is part of that cash cow and so on down the line. I absolutely accept that. But the original idea of the National Demolition Training Group to provide industry-specific training to industry-specific people, I think came from the right place. It's been bastardized and queered, and well, its direction has actually changed over the years, to the point where, I can't actually remember the last time I looked, but a couple of million quid in the bank. What is the point? Why are you running it like a commercial enterprise? Nobody stands to gain from that. Surely the idea would be to make sure that as many people are trained and competent as is possible, rather than trying to run it as a cash cow. Don't see the point. But yeah, and as I say, I know Mick comes from a demolition background in a roundabout way. So do I. But they're all the same. You look at the Construction Plant Hire Association. It's basically set up for those that own and operate plant hire companies. Not really doing a great deal for the man on the ground. Chris Ford belatedly joined us. Chris, you didn't win the mystery machine today. which comes as something that's as of a surprise. But good morning to you, Chris. Thank you very much indeed for being here. You've basically arrived as we're doing the last knockings, and we're just talking about the lack of unity in the industry and the fact that, as I say, when you think about how the industry rolled over on red diesel, how it's rolling over on inheritance tax, and even going back to COVID, you know, I obviously this show started because of COVID, so you know I kind of had my finger on the pulse, and within a couple of days of us going into lockdown, we received note that construction and demolition workers had been granted key worker status, and the Construction and Leadership Council were, you can carry on working. You need to obviously abide by social distancing rules, but you can carry on working. You know, don't travel together in a van, but you can carry on working because you have key worker status. I asked the question, but why did nobody else? You know, if you were to believe what we were being told by the NHS and by Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson and various others, that the streets of the UK were disease-ridden, you could catch a potentially deadly disease just by getting too close to somebody. But construction workers, you crack on. Where was the unity that went, hang the fuck on? Why should we go out into those streets? Why should we work side by side with people that might be carrying a potentially deadly disease when everybody else has been told to stay at home? Now, you know, there was, I think there was a sense of potentially misplaced pride in that. You know, the rest of the country has come to a standstill, but us, demolition contractors and construction workers, carried on. They saw the nation through its darkest hours and stuff. Why should we? Why should we? Particularly when, you know, we now know that a lot of the bosses in the construction industry were playing fast and loose with the bounce back loan scheme and everything else. Why were we asked to put? I say we, I wasn't, but why were you asked to put your life on the line to keep the wheels of the economy turning when if you worked in retail, if you worked in a factory, if you worked in the pharmaceutical industry, if you worked in anything else, you buggered off home? And I can understand nurses and doctors having to be there because, frankly, we needed them. Did we really? Was construction really a priority? And could we not have gone back 2.5 million people and said, hang on, not keen on the dying bit. Any chance we can take a beat here and possibly not go to work, sold side by side, shoulder to shoulder, when we could catch a disease? Dan Cullen says, was talking to Nigel last night, and even he says the industry is fucked. And no one has your back. You're just a number. No one hires direct now. No. And as I say, when you look at, I can't even remember how I put it. It was something about conspiracy, wasn't it? Bear with me. Doesn't it seem peculiar that the more fragmented the industry becomes, the more those at the top seem to benefit? That's not a coincidence, is it? You know, when you look at how fragmented the industry has become, when you look at how fragmented the workforce has become, who gains there? It's not the individual trade bodies and the individual trades. It's not the individual workers, because those at the top are benefiting. Excuse me. Dan Cullen says, and they go through agents to get people so they can sack at a drop of a hat. No one has your back in any situation on the job. No, you're absolutely right. Mick says the whole COVID thing was a cock-up. Now we have a bigger disease running the country full of liars and people who have no concept of the harm they're doing to the UK. It does feel like that a lot. Footy says, I feel like a gypsy in this game because I'm moving site to site and different places all the time. Yeah. And is that, I mean, setting aside the whole unity thing, is that really a good use of our resources? Bear with me. So, Erith, the demolition contractor, They did some work on a nuclear power station, very successful. I can't remember the name of it. I went there several times. I can't remember the name of it. Is it over in Essex somewhere? Doesn't matter. So they put together a team of some of their very best managers, operators, operatives, and they went along and they did some work at this nuclear power station. Very successful it was too. So when that was over and done with, they were then part of a nuclear power station framework, so demolishing and decommissioning other power stations up and down the land. So they kept that team together. That became, it wasn't Sizewell Dam, no, that became their nuclear team. It was kind of their A team. If it's nuclear, these are the kiddies, because they've been there and they've done it. They've earned their stripes, they've got the T-shirt, but they know the regulations inside out. They know what they can do, what they can't do, and so on down the line. So that became their nuclear team. And they did that for efficiency. If everybody knows the rules and the regulations, but they're all used to working with each other previously, they've all got each other's back, they all know each other, there's a degree of camaraderie, so they will work better together. Now compare that to the way that we tend to work, particularly with agency workers like our man Footy there. We do a project, right, you piss off, you piss off, you piss off, you piss off as well. And then we'll go to another job and we might bring you back and we might bring you back, but you're not coming back and we'll get somebody on to replace you. So you're constantly learning each other. There's not a cohesive team. It's like the England football team playing with one 11 today, and then at the weekend playing with a different 11, and then the week after that playing with some of the first 11, some of the second 11. Nobody knows what the others are doing. There's not that, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, that collective bond. There's not that understanding of each other's movements and ways of working and everything else. And even when you think about management, if you're trying to manage people that you know inside out, you'll know that guy over there needs an arm around his shoulder, that one needs a constant badgering to keep on top of things, and so on down the line. That's that's the way man management works. But also, when you think about particular skills, you might have somebody in demolition, put him on a breaking job, breaking out a slab, and just leave him to his own devices, and he is brilliant. But want something really delicate done up high, well, he's the man for that job. So you understand exactly what skills people bring to bear, and where they apply, and where you can get the best from them. How do you do that if you're constantly using different people? Pulling in different people from different agencies, laying them off, bringing them back, laying them off, bringing them back. How do you do that? You can't. Chris Ford says, face fit springs to mind. If your face fits in, if it doesn't, you're out. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And how is that? How does that build a cohesive team? There is almost a psychic is the wrong word, but there is almost like let's go with psychic. There's almost like a psychic bond. If you've got half a dozen guys, think about the military. You've got half a dozen guys who are constantly together. They know each other's features, benefits, advantages, disadvantages, their weaknesses and their strengths. They understand that. Same in demolition, same in construction. If you're working with the same people day in, day out, you know each other's movements and what they're best at and everything else. If you're constantly working with different people, you're constantly having to learn new people. So rather than actually, and I wonder how much that contributes to, our loss of productivity. Construction is one of the few industries where productivity is going backwards, rather than going constantly improving with automation and mechanization and all of that. We are going backwards as an industry, and I wonder if that's partly to blame. We all know if you jump in a Hitachi, that's how an excavator works. If you jump in a JCB, that's how that works. The bloke at the side of you, not a clue, never met him before. I encountered him for the first time 7:30 this morning, and I've turned up tomorrow afternoon, and he's gone and he's been replaced by somebody else. How do you get that cohesive thing? You can tell I use words for a living. Thing. I don't know. I don't know how you get it, and I wish I could remember the name of that power station, but it wasn't as big as Sizewell. It was a little one, but it'll come to me, I'm sure, probably after the show is over and done with. Anyway, people, that's an hour. There's only 2 more of these, and the first of those 2 is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So if you're around, if you're not busy, if you're not already out doing your Christmas shopping, please join us if you would be so kind. I'd love to have your company, as always. As I say, 2 more. So tomorrow and on Friday, and then you can go and imagine that I don't exist for 2 weeks before I come back and make your life an absolute misery again. I'll be back tomorrow with more of whatever this is. Hope to see you then. Till then, everybody have a good day. And please, nail your wigs down. Screw your hats on, because it is very, very, very windy out there. And as Mick says, stay safe, fellas. The hound's got his lead in his mouth, eyeing his travel bag. Catch you later. And Chris Ford says, might be on time tomorrow. Should we wait for you, Chris? Or should we just crack on and hope you join us? I think we'll go with the latter. See you tomorrow. Until then, have a good day. All the best.